Welcome to session 4. In the first 3 sessions, we're focused on the how-tos. How do you do it in your church? How do you do it at the group level? How do you do it for you in leading your small group? This session is all about you and your heart. I want to talk to you about deepening your heart, which is all about the character inside of you, the leader. You see, the heart as a small group leader will ultimately determine the heart of your small group. This session will deal with the issue of character specifically to you, the small group leader. We will discuss the areas where you must excel as a small group leader, as well as some of the key pitfalls that we've seen throughout the decades that you have to avoid. This session will include some practical tools that will help you measure your personal growth and engage in 4 questions essential to your character. Now, I want to stop you for just a second and just point out that at the close of each one of these sessions, we have some thought-provoking exercises that we want you to do. So it's going to be very easy to hear all the content, but not do that final last 10% of where you need to dig into your heart. So I want to make sure you do that, because listen to what Proverbs says in Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. You see, the fundamental issue determining the extent to which God can bless your leadership is your heart. If you and I were honest with ourselves and with God, it would not take us very long to identify areas of our heart and lives that are divided, self-centered, and, generally just dishonoring to God. If we leave our hearts unmanaged, they will eventually be our downfall. Below, we're going to talk about the life of Moses in Hebrews chapter 11 as an example of building godly character, and at the words of Jesus in John 15 as a way of becoming the leaders and followers that God desires for us to be. Now, before you can be an effective spiritual leader for your small group, you must be surrounded as a follower of Christ with His goodness and His character. The life surrendering to Christ is a lifelong process as a spiritual growth tool for you in your maturity. But you will continue to answer these 4 basic questions for the rest of your lives. Trust me, I'm dealing with them all the time. So I want to read the 2 passages to you, and then each session we're going to go into one of the pivotal questions that will determine how long you're going to be leading your group at your church. First part of the scripture is found in Hebrews 11, verses 24 through 27, if you want to follow along with me. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a short time. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as a greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger, but persevered because he saw Him who was the invisible. And then in John 15, I'm going to read some chunks of scripture here. Let me start out with verses 4 and 5. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine. You are the branches. If you remain in me and I in Him, He will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can bear nothing. Then skip down to verse 8. This is the Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. And then if you jump down all the way to verse 16, it says, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. Then the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Now, let's look at the 4 questions of the heart every leader should ask. As we do this, we will look at the picture we get from Moses' life, and then we're going to look at the timeless principle we get from Jesus.